What's up guys, welcome to Wasted Space, and we're back in Space Engineers, and of course with the update on Thursday we are playing around with projectors, because you kinda have to when they release something that cool. So what we have here, and what my video today is about, is a kind of mix of how you can use projectors in one simple application, but also aimed a little bit at answering Mr. Luckiera, hopefully I pronounced that right, viewer challenge. And I'm not going to put this up as a viewer challenge video because it kind of does a bit of both, and if I'm honest, I've not quite nailed his challenge yet. But anyway, let's have a quick look at what I'm talking about. And what we have in front of me here is what I like to refer to as the Vulture Rapid Deployment Craft. Vulture, obviously, from its looks. And yeah, thanks guys. On the last video I had a load of really cool feedback on how to paint ships, and also just generally people saying that my last design looked really cool. So it's kind of inspired me to spend a little bit more time on actually how I design and make these ships look. So this time round I've gone for a sort of dazzle camouflage approach aimed at hiding this ship against the backgrounds and against asteroids, but also kind of shaped it out nicely so it looks a bit more cool. But the gist of this and what this is all geared towards doing, let's jump in and demonstrate. So if we just line ourselves up, we can have a look, and now you can see that we have a setup on the back. And one concern with this ship, because what we are releasing here are solar powered, we want to make sure that we're kind of facing the sun with our bottom like that. And we can accelerate away, and we're going to go and start deploying what comes out the back. And the whole point of this craft is it's geared to be running at absolutely maximum speed. So as you can see, we're full speed, and we can just start this timer here, and this timer is going to start grinding and welding these antenna craft out the bottom of the ship, deploying basically a satellite network. So every 500 meters or so, one of these will be dropped out the back of the craft, activate, and then off it goes. And the idea being that as we fly along at maximum speed, we can create ourselves a continuous antenna network to relay positions back. However, if I now turn the UI on, you can see, unfortunately, why currently this isn't working, and it's entirely due to the problem with the projectors. When you use a projector currently in Space Engineers, the blueprint that you use to create it, as I'm using here, a very simple blueprint for these solar-powered antennas, comes out of the projector as owned by nobody, and there is no current way of affecting that. And what it means, of course, is that these antennas that I'm creating out the back can't talk to each other or me. So unfortunately, while this is leaving a very nice antenna network behind, and as you can see they are about 500-600 meters apart and very much within range of antennas, I should be able to set them to 800 and just keep leaving them like this. I can't, unfortunately, because of this ownership thing, so hopefully they sort that out pretty soon. But once this one's released, I'm just going to hit 5, which is a timer just set to stop everything. And we can slow down. Nice, fast, good handling ship this as well. The only thing you have to watch out for is there's a part in there that likes to bang around against the other bits. But let me cut back and I'll show you a little bit about how I've put this together. So what we got here is literally that ship cut, not quite in half, because that would delete everything down the center, but cut in such that we can see the insides. And at the back here is the sort of main block that is running the actual projection side of things. So this is it separated out from the ship itself, and I actually have this as a separate blueprint so I can paste it into other ships. But just briefly, what you need to make these projectors work, summarizing it up because it is a little bit confusing to get them working. You're going to need obviously the projector placed in such a way that you'll see there's a cross on the bottom there, and there's a line on the red bit that's placing into the welder at the moment. That dictates which way round everything is going to be. You need to align it so that it's touching an existing part of the ship. So if I go back over here where the projection actually is, this tube is actually touching this block here. It doesn't look like it because the projections move when you're at speed. So this ship's been set up to have the projection positioned right for 104 meters a second. It's not capable of building the projections when it's still. It's very odd that way that behaves, but this projection will shift in position as we accelerate. So we need it touching, we need a block on it that's not completed, which is this one at the front here. It's too far away from the welder, and what that does is keep the projection alive, ready for the next one. And finally you need a way of detaching it from the craft. So you can see this will get built down, and then this grinder back here turns on to grind away the conveyor tubes. And I've used conveyor tubes because they grind really quickly. I did originally have heavy armor there, light armor there, and it ground much more slowly. So this was a slight late change to the design. But the important part of these grinders, to make them work, they have to sit on a rotor. And it's partly to do with the distance, but partly also because this makes this grinder part of a different ship as far as the game is concerned, and thus it's capable of grinding itself. If it's not on the rotor, it considers itself part of this ship and won't grind away at it. A little bit strange how that behaves, but put those things together with your projector, something to weld it, something to grind it, and then those sort of 3 criteria. So the fact that it's touching onto the welder, the fact that it's got a block that doesn't get completed, and the fact that the grinder is on a rotor, and there you have sort of your full projection system. And obviously you're going to need to change it depending on what size of things you're built, but with the Vulture, it's designed to deploy these small sort of 2x3x3 block designs out the back of the ship at speed. And then the rest of the ship is pretty much just given over to sufficient power to run the engines and sufficient cargo storage to actually sort of be able to continually build these even in survival mode. And yeah, we've got obviously a connector on the back for refilling in those circumstances. Sorry. And then if I go under here, these are missing from the other side, but you can see that there are a huge number of small reactors basically plugged onto every spare space I had in the conveyor system. They were on this side as well. That's just necessary to run the masses of engines that are on the back of this thing that make it go that fast. And then we've got 2 sort of things that we can launch out of it. So this one, already familiar with, that's what I've been dropping thus far. This is the connectors that get welded away. And the idea behind this was to make it solar powered, because if you're going to drop these antenna networks, obviously you don't want to have to keep refueling. So a solar powered system was the best there. This is also capable of being dropped out of that same setup. And the yellow blocks here are the bit that doesn't get finished. It's not capable of welding this low down. It attaches in the same way, as you can see with the conveyors at the top. The difference is this is one of those tracking mines, but with a slight difference. So let me get one of these out here, because that one I've turned off for demonstration purposes. Let's sort of line it up about there. And oh no, it's seen its buddy. Unfortunately, I think I'm placing these a little bit too close in with the other ships around. The idea behind these, and hopefully I can do one if I come over here, they are set up to detect and sense onto small and large ships. And as usual, they have that tracking system. But then the idea is they're going to try and drive at that ship as they can, maybe collide with it, but much more likely get in there and then use that auto-locking foot to clamp on. And I've managed to actually land it in the one place where the foot has nowhere to attach. But the idea being, and this does work, I'll have to try and set up another one that's not going lunatic spinning around in circles. The idea is these come in, and much like sort of the limpet design from one of my other videos, they actually attach onto the ship, and once they've done so, they interfere with that ship's movement. And unlike in that video where I had a big problem with not having proper control over the ship once they were connected together, these are of course drones. They don't have a control panel, and therefore they are more than capable of clamping on and actually stopping, limpet style, the ship from being able to do anything. So there's the idea for today, guys. It's reasonably interesting, I think. A nice use of the projectors. I really hope that at some point soon they sort out this issue where they're not capable of following over control panel settings from the blueprints and ownership from the blueprints, especially now, because it means that everything you're producing using a projector is going to come out owned by nobody and can therefore potentially be stolen or run off with by anybody, up until the point where you have to get into each individual one and set the ownership to you. One bit of a flaw at the moment, but otherwise an amazing system. Really can't wait to see what people come up with and what people do with this. I decided I was going to avoid the obvious let's build a reloadable projectile weapon thing and do something a little bit different, so I hope you found that vaguely interesting. If you did, please hit the like button, please hit the subscribe, it really helps me and the channel out. And thanks a lot, guys. I'll catch you next time. Woo!